Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Tuesday's edition, and we're broadcasting from both Southern and Northern California today, and it is a momentous day, folks. Drew, welcome back to Schaftlein Report. It's amazing. Could not have you on a more momentous day. You've got some grave concerns about the actions that took place yesterday. Let's get right to it. I assume your thoughts mirror the rest of not only the Republican establishment, but you go a step further in your concerns about the overreach that's taken place here.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole world is actually watching this right now. This is not just an embarrassment to the United States of America, but it is, of course, un-American. This is the type of thing that does happen in banana republics, dictatorships around the world. They have gone too far, and they really have crossed a red line here. Look, they've been doing absolutely unconstitutional, un-American, insane things since Donald Trump first came down the escalator in 2016. Going after him, inventing the phony Steele dossier, Trump-Russia collusion, multiple impeachments over things that he did not do. But this is different. They used and weaponized the FBI to go after a former president of the United States. It's unprecedented. And, I asked the question, how much does this resemble kind of a 1776? This is how serious this is.
Well, it's clearly an abuse of power. I mean, for Trump to be targeted with a search warrant, when all they had to do, again, I listened to Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus at Harvard Law, and was on Trump's legal team in the impeachment case. Dershowitz said there was absolutely no reason why there could not have been a subpoena issued. This thing could have been quietly handled. And the fact that both Director Wray, Chris Wray of the FBI, and Merrick Garland of the Justice Department both signed off on this, and to believe that the White House had no knowledge of this coming, I mean, what do they think? Do they think everybody in this country is stupid? I mean, this is what really bothers me about this. Whether Trump announces or not is irrelevant at this point. But to take an arcane situation like the Presidential Records Act of 1978, and the people that represented the archives were there, at Trump's facility, Mar-a-Lago there. I mean, to blow that into that type of situation, no wonder it's got people ticked off, not only Republicans. There's some Democrats quietly ticked off about this too, because, within moments of this happening, obviously Trump's cut a commercial, fundraising off of it, rightfully so, and he is likely now to be, quote, the martyr that's going to run for the Republican nomination.
Yeah, that really is the irony of this situation. The Democrats' objective is to prevent Trump from running for re-election in 2024, right? That's always been their goal. But in doing this and this latest absolutely unforgivable act that they've just committed, weaponizing the FBI to go and, getting a search warrant to go after his home, break into a safe, it's made it more likely that he is the candidate in 2024. That's the great irony. Mm-hmm. But, I think it's important to put this in context, too. The media is going to do what the media always does. They're going to blow things out of proportion. They're going to lie about what's happening. But this isn't even really a breaking situation. What the FBI did was, back in February, do you remember the media accused Trump of violating the Presidential Records Act? That was in February. He had personal effects, letters, correspondence that the National Archives wanted. And they blew it up then. And, he apparently back then he had 15 boxes with him at Mar-a-Lago that he took from the White House. And anyway, it was a big nothing burger like everything else. Right. And Trump's lawyer simply went back and forth with the National Archives personnel, and Trump ended up giving them what they wanted. So now they're just bringing the story back out now to serve a different purpose. And we can get into that later, what they're doing with this. But the Presidential Records Act, for one, look, it's just like a standard operating procedure. I mean, nothing really criminally can come from this. That's the truth. People will try and make arguments, but it doesn't really have teeth. It's not going to, this in itself, even if they convicted him of violating this Presidential Records Act, it's not going to prevent him from running for reelection. So, I mean, this is so stupid. I mean, it's basically just about preserving records, right? It puts a standard operating procedure in place that's supposed to maintain presidential administration's records. That's it.
Yeah. Jim Jordan and other Republicans, McCarthy included, were calling for Garland and Wray to come before the Judiciary Committee. And again, Wray just testified recently, so I don't know how quickly they can get him back. But Drew, not only was it completely mishandled, and it could have been I mean, to borrow something Dan Bongino said earlier today, you know, they went from 0 to 90 miles an hour. I mean, there's steps that could have been taken to prevent this. Who in their right mind would go down this path? And it was an arcane, not even a current federal district judge that approved this. It was some low-level judge in Florida that ironically had been involved in the Jeffrey Epstein prosecution. I don't even want to distinguish the guy with his name right now because it's that bad. But Trump's safe was broken into. Look, I understand the frustration. And if I was Trump, I would be ticked off at this.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to point out the reason that they did it in such a way. Look, in one sense, the reason they did this was to send a chilling message to the American people. You know, if they can do this to the president of the United States, no American is safe. That's the first clear message. Mm-hmm. And you know, you're right. Just to mention this guy, this judge they got, I won't mention his name either, but screw the guy. But, you know, this guy's a quintessential deep stater. He's a lowlife. He repped Epstein's people, and he got them immunity. You know, they enabled pedophilia and enabled Epstein. And this guy took him on as clients. Reinhardt's corrupt. He's been involved in many scandals since 2012, 2013, having insider evidence, the way he conducts himself in a courtroom. So, you know, this is typical, right? Because no judge in his right mind who wasn't corrupt would have signed off on this search warrant. Right. Because what they're saying, what they're signaling, what they are claiming by doing this is that they have cause, right? They've got the goods because they have, in order to get a search warrant, you've got to prove, you know, that somebody's got something with intent behind it. And so that's what they're doing. But look, this was a performance. And I'm telling you, it wasn't just about sending a signal to the American people. It was the same reason the J6 committee exists. Their audience has never been you and me. Right. It's been the Justice Department making the case, trying to make the case for them to get an indictment of Trump in front of a grand jury. So they're look, they have accused Trump of a crime, all right, without evidence. And now they're trying to put the pieces together and convince a grand jury to indict Trump. It's an emotional appeal. So here they are saying, look, we got a search warrant. Obviously, this means, you know, Donald Trump was trying to hide something, which means he's guilty of inciting an insurrection. That's essentially the route this is going. It is absolutely bonkers insane, and it has no place in America.
Yeah. I mean, you go back, I can go back with a laundry list of Trump supporters. First, there was the Roger Stone fiasco down in Florida, where CNN had the cameras there. You know, they come in guns drawn at his house. You had the Paul Manafort situation, similar type situation. You had Peter Navarro, who's been a guest on this show before, you know, taken off an airplane, guns hoisted. I mean, for a misdemeanor. I mean, if this isn't signaling a clear this was a political message, make no mistake about it. They did not have to go to this level. And when I hear left-wing commentators, you know, saying, well, the House wasn't really raided. You know, they did notify the Secret Service. Look, when you have multiple FBI agents with weapons coming into your personal residence, I mean, there's no way to spin that, and it has crossed the line here. And for the Biden administration to say, oh, well, see no evil, hear no evil, I mean, Drew, that's just not going to cut it. And I believe this is backfire time, because now Republicans, even moderate Republicans who maybe weren't for Trump, they're going to see the injustice in this action. And Trump is likely to get a groundswell of additional support from the Republican Party for the actions of a corrupt FBI and Justice Department.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And that's why I just think it is almost laughable. I don't know. I mean, look, the Democrats are so desperate. They're blinded by their authoritarian mentality, blinded by their quest for power. And so, they're not making rational decisions. They're not making decisions based on the well-being of the country. Obviously, they're unhinged, and this is the most unhinged we've even seen them exemplify. And it's amazing because this comes on the heels of them passing their Inflation Reduction Act,
Right.
which is the Inflation Explosion Act. And that targets the American citizens. And look, I think this is the thing, too. What they've just done here is they have ignited energy behind Donald Trump now, because I think the American people understand that this attack against Donald Trump is an attack on the American citizen. It's an attack on our country. And you're right, he is a martyr now. And I think people have been talking about the need for the Republicans after the midterms to go in, and to open up investigations, to just take the gloves off, right? And I think this is making the case for
Right.
a president that has a personal vendetta, that is going to get the job done. You trust him to do it because he's been unfairly persecuted, and we want to see justice. And I think that's the argument that's being built for Trump now. And it's amazing, too, because, I've always made this point. It's shocking to me. In addition to the evidence of fraud that we've seen, I mean, nothing says it greater than the fact that if they beat him so handily in 2020, you would think they would be begging for Donald Trump to run
Right.
against them in 2024. What are they so afraid of? Why are they trying to destroy him? Why are they doing this? How can they be so afraid of one man?
Yeah, that's the part, Drew. I don't get, because, we've talked about this in polling before. I mean, yeah, he got 69% of the approval in that CPAC poll in Denver. DeSantis was in the mid 20s. With Trump's not running, DeSantis, runs up the score. But every indication that I've seen, Trump is going to run. It's only a question of when is he going to announce. If you're in the Democratic Party, Biden got more votes than Trump did last time, unless you believe all those votes were fraudulent. I'm not going to that's not the purpose of today's discussion, but according to the official count, Biden got more votes. Okay. I'm in your camp. What are they so damn afraid of? Okay, because is it Biden's record? Do they think Trump will beat him this time? I mean, polling indicates that the American public does not want to see Donald Trump against Joe Biden. But in the event that it were Donald Trump against Joe Biden, again, 2.5 years ahead, early polling, Trump's up by 3 or 4 points. You and I know that doesn't mean a whole lot now. And the real test is going to come in the results of the midterms. But I'm telling you this, Drew, and I really believe this. I think, Trump has had a record of endorsing candidates in the primaries. The big question is going to be, will that endorsement carry over to the general election? Based upon what happened yesterday, I think a lot of independents, they're going to be terrified by what happened here. They're going to say, wait a minute now, the 1978, Presidential Records Act or whatever. Yeah, the Presidential Records Act, 1978. That's what they did this for? And this comes on top of a bill likely to be passed by the House, 87,000 new IRS agents. I mean, most people can't tell you a whole lot about that bill. Well, yeah, they're raising corporate taxes. Most people think that doesn't affect them. Okay, they're raising some natural gas taxes, some energy taxes on oil, some coal taxes. Okay, that's not, most people say, that doesn't really affect me. You tell them, in addition to that, 87,000 IRS agents on top of seeing Trump's house just raided, that's got to put concern not only in Republican hands, but these Democrats that are laughing about it now, oh yeah, Trump's going to jail, he's just, and independents are going to sit there and say, wait a minute, something seems just not quite un-American. This is un-American and unfair. And I think, Drew, it's going to have significant political implications backfiring against the Democrats.
Yeah, I think that what they've done between the legislation they've passed and then this raid on Donald Trump, this targeting, it's waking up the people that were kind of on the fence that they needed to keep, dormant. Look, this Inflation Reduction Act, it is a disaster. It's Build Back Better light,
Yep.
and it is gonna make the recession worse. It's going to make inflation worse. It's a spending bill, right? But actually, the most alarming thing in that bill, believe it or not, is that $87,000 more IRS agents being hired. And I don't know the exact number, Mark. There's a couple hundred, maybe billionaires in the country. There aren't many of them. So the idea that the Democrats are saying that they need 87,000 new IRS agents to go after billionaires is a laughable joke.
Not true.
And now you have the juxtaposition of how the FBI is being used to go after a president of the United States, that abuse of power. How do you think this IRS is going to be weaponized to go after the middle class and normal, ordinary working Americans? And the point here is that we're already overtaxed. And the message the Democrats are sending is that, we're a bunch of cheats and frauds out there trying to hide a couple of bucks we got in tips under our mattress. And they've got to come and find that and seek that out. They have a spending problem. There's not a taxation problem in this country. And what they should have done, of course, was lowered taxes for everyone to give us relief, but they gave us the double-barreled middle finger, and then they followed it up by going and raiding Donald Trump's home. And you know what the other thing they're going to do with this, Mark, is they're hoping that, even if this doesn't really go anywhere, they're hoping that Mark Elias, whose doppelganger is Jabba the Hutt, he said that, the idea, that a candidate would have to litigate this during a campaign. Well, he called that a blockbuster in American politics. So they're hoping to dirty Trump, to sully Trump, to have him embroiled in conflict, right? Just like the media ignored all the conflict surrounding Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the emails, right. They're hoping to make that the new Trump-Russia collusion if they fail to get a conviction, indictment, and so on and so forth. Because I don't think they're going to be victorious in this. I think you're right. This is going to play out. And look, if they were, God forbid, they were able to get their way with this and stick Donald Trump in a prison cell, I don't think I have to say what the impact would be on this nation and what might happen.
Yeah, I don't see going anywhere even remotely that far. Before a federal court judge would throw this out, the Supreme Court would throw it out. I mean, that wouldn't happen. But here's the thing, and you just raised a couple points. Hillary Clinton goes through her email scandal. No one came to Hillary Clinton's house. I mean, here's a woman that deleted tens of thousands of emails that was under investigation. Nobody came to her house. You didn't see a Chappaqua, no FBI agents there. And she was able to wipe her servers clean, brought in people to do it. So, I mean, here's someone who had no consequences from what she did. Here's someone who literally made up out of thin air this Russian story. Trump goes through 2 impeachments, one over a phone call with the Ukrainian president, when Hunter Biden and Joe Biden clearly did things they should not have done relative to extorting the president of Ukraine at the time. Little did we think we'd be going through an invasion years later. And here we've got Hunter Biden, who has done way worse things, sitting in a house up in Santa Barbara, nothing. Now, I know some conservative commentators have theorized, well, if we're going to charge Hunter Biden, we got to at least get something out there with Trump. I don't know. Maybe that's true. But in my view, Democrats never get charged with anything. We just got done talking about Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Peter Navarro, and now this situation with Trump. Do you recall a single Democrat? The last one I can think of ever did anything remotely close to this is when they charged Sandy Berger with walking out of an office with files. I mean, Drew, it just doesn't happen.
No, and the truth is, if it ever did happen, and it would have been lawfully appropriate for it to happen in all of these cases with Democrats, I guarantee you there would be violent riots in the streets that were endorsed by the Democratic Party. They'd be saying this is a threat to democracy. Of course, they accuse us of everything they're doing themselves. But, that cannot be mentioned enough, what Hillary Clinton did, because, she had her emails subpoenaed. They were already subpoenaed, and then she destroyed 33,000 emails.
Right.
And she was let off the hook. And this is a woman, by the way, who, when she and her husband left the White House after their 8 years there, she stole furniture from the White House, tried to take a little piece of it with her home because she liked it so much, and had to return it, to the White House afterwards because, hey, guess what? Just like you can't keep your little letter to Kim Jong-un, apparently, that you wrote in your own handwriting, you can't steal the people's furniture from the house. The American people are sick of this. We have seen, and what's amazing, you see here Pelosi out there, Joe Scarborough, all these media hacks out there are celebrating this, cheering, saying nobody's above the law. That's what this tells them. Nobody's above the law? You mean except Hillary Clinton, right. Bill Clinton, the Biden crime syndicate. I mean, all these people. This is what's just so stunning. And you mentioned Hunter Biden, of course, not to mention Joe Biden, but Hunter Biden, he is on film violating laws, drug abuse, prostitution. I mean, he lied on his form to get a handgun. Yeah. That is a violation of the law. Nothing's happened. And as a matter of fact, the grand jury that was looking into, that was seated to look into indictments for Hunter Biden, well, that was just, they let go of the grand jury. They dismissed it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. None of this stuff makes any sense. And I thought it was interesting. Some people were saying, well, the reports are the Biden administration, the White House had no knowledge of this happening. Well, okay, if that's true, then how did Nancy Pelosi hear, I think the word she said was what, chirping? How was Pelosi cognizant of something happening, but for some strange reason, it never reached up to the White House? I mean, Drew, if you're going to raid the home of the predecessor president, do you really believe Merrick Garland or FBI Director Wray would do this without at least the chief of staff in the White House being notified?
Look, they all knew about this because this was done on the at the behest of the January 6th committee and the Democrats. They have been colluding behind scenes with the FBI, just like they did with the Trump-Russia collusion, the Steele dossier. They colluded to get that done. And so, look, the only white lie, or the only thing that might be true, is that Joe Biden might have heard about it, but he likely forgot. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video. He shook Chuck Schumer's hand. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. And then seconds later, he forgot he shook Schumer's hand and turns back to shake Schumer's hand again. So, that's the only thing I'll give him. Joe Biden might not have known about this because he could have forgotten about it. But everyone in the Democratic Party knew about this. It
was interesting. I saw the president on television today giving his speech at the CHIPS Act signing. That's the bill that we talked about previously when you were on the semiconductor investment deal. I felt like sort of sympathy to the president. I was sort of cringing. He's gotten over COVID, but man, he couldn't get through a sentence without coughing and choking up. And I mean, you hate to see that, but I don't know. I don't want to criticize. I'm not criticizing him over his health. I just felt, man, if you're not feeling good or if you're going to do that constantly, have somebody else do it. I mean, I don't know. It was a little sort of cringeworthy. I mean, again, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just, you look at it and you go, oh, God, that guy's our president. And you just think, this guy's not really up to the job. And then this happening on top of, the Trump thing yesterday, it really makes you concerned, Drew, because I don't know. My sense is, this is backdoor stuff now. I just cannot see this guy running in 2024. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just gives me as a citizen, I'm looking at this saying, that guy's our leader? Am I being too tough with this, or?
No, look, we have to be honest, and these are actually objective concerns, as much as I don't like Joe Biden, the Democrats, objectively, anyone can look at it. It's a danger to America. What you're saying is what the rest of the world and our enemies are observing as well. And so this isn't a secret. I mean, the biggest, it's incredible because we knew this on the campaign trail. Yep. He didn't appear for 3 months at one point, early on in the campaign. And I kid you not, it was 3 months. He did not emerge. He was not seen in public for 3 months. And he'd always do these disappearing acts. And we know that he's not well. And we need to talk about there's no way. I don't think he can finish his first term. That's the truth. They are doing anything and everything they can to just get through the midterms right now. And after that, who knows where they're going to go? That I can't predict. We can all speculate for fun, but nobody knows that answer. If we're being honest, what they're going to do next. But yeah, he's not up for the task mentally or physically, and to see him cough into his hand, and it also just makes you think, if that had been, you can't help but do this comparison, right? If Trump had recovered from COVID and was sitting there on the world stage coughing into his hand, the media would be talking about, oh, is he getting the guy next to him COVID? Is he actually, that's right. Where we go.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. And again, I wish the president good health, but I mean, it was constant. He really struggled to get through that. ceremony, I guess is what you would call it. There were a lot of people sitting out in the, I guess he was on the White House lawn. I don't know, it looked like there was a couple hundred people in chairs out there. The choreography looked pretty good. The speaker was there, Schumer was there. I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those moments where you look and go, oh man. And I think you hit the key thing. All of our adversaries see this. But I want to come back to this thing here. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, who may run for president, we don't know. He was really pounding the issue with Hillary today too. I mean, he's saying, hey, listen, for Trump to do this, which I think, Drew, whether you're, again, Republican, moderate, independent, or we'll call it liberal Democrat with a small L, not the far left-wing radicals, you got to look at this and say, man, if they could do this to Trump, they could do it to anybody. And then you factor in all the IRS agents and then taxes going up, and you're sitting here and you see inflation, you're going, what the hell is going on here in this country right now? And yet these far left commentators, hell, they take it to the next degree, like on steroids. Well, not only can Trump can't run if he's convicted of this, he could actually be thrown in jail. And they just lie to their audience to gin them up.
Yeah, well, it's nothing new, right?
No.
I mean, they've been doing this since 2016. They promised bombshell after bombshell after bombshell, from Trump-Russia collusion that never delivered, quid pro quo, Stormy Daniels, taxes of the president. I mean, look, here's the thing. Trump is the most scrutinized president in American history.
Yes, he is.
And the guy's got to be the cleanest guy in terms of how he conducts his professional life and so on and so forth in human history. I mean, for them to go through all these hoops with him, all these, year-long witch hunts, trying to find anything on him. They found stuff on associates. Of course, they had nothing to do with Trump, Russia collusion or anything else, but
right.
They found little tidbits here and there of everyone else. But Trump, they've never found anything. And so, look, this is the thing too. Trump is not this amoral, terrible monster that the Democratic Party paints him as.
Right.
Whether you don't like his and here's the thing too. When I'm looking at what's happening right now, even myself, and look, I've been a supporter of President Trump, and I've just argued for a robust primary that we need. But even for me, I look at this and I say, we need a bulldog in the White House to deal with this.
Yeah.
And nobody could have sustained what Trump went through except for Donald Trump.
Yep. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I mean, anecdotally, his supporters were out last night. I mean, it wasn't big numbers, but I just have this sense, this sort of gut feeling that the MAGA world and the MAGA supporters, they are fuming today and they are ticked off, and they will get out to the polls and vote. And I think other Republicans are going to get out and vote. And I really think, aside from the political optics about how bad this looked and the overreach of government and the overreach of the Justice Department and the overreach of the FBI and steps that could have been taken, I really believe they bit off more than they could chew here. They clearly crossed a red line. And I'm telling you, Drew, I think this is going to make Trump stronger. Remember back when he first was running, he made that stupid comment, I could go out and shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and they'd still support me. Well, he didn't even have to shoot anyone. They literally broke into his house. I don't mean literally breaking the doors, but they came into his house. He wasn't given a heads up on this. And it almost seems to me like Garland and Wray were thinking, well, if we give him a subpoena, then he might destroy the records. Those records were in a box. They hadn't even been opened, for God's sake. So, this thing just really sets the wrong way. I don't think it's just Republicans who supported Trump, like the Jim Jordans, et cetera. I think this is going to reverberate throughout the entire party. Even to his credit, Ron DeSantis came out with a scathing commentary on it. And that's a smart thing to do, of course, if you're Ron DeSantis. You haven't even announced anything yet. But I do want to ask you this question. Do you think what happened yesterday will speed up Trump announcing whether he will run or not?
Well, I tweeted out last night, amidst everyone saying their brilliant commentary, which I need to repeat, I said, I think that Donald Trump should just go ahead and tell us he's running right now. I think finally now it's actually an appropriate and permissible time given what just happened to him. Everyone would be on board with it. Everyone would say it's okay. There's a groundswell of support here after that, and carpe diem, seize the day. Nobody would have a problem with that. They literally just made the case for Trump 2024.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. All right, let's talk about a couple elections. One that happened a week ago Tuesday, and one that's going to happen today. Friend of the show, Joe Kent, who we've had on a couple times. He initially was down. Jamie Herrera was leading, but now the mail-in ballots got counted. And just so our audience, viewers, and listeners know, Washington State's a little bit unique. If you mail in your ballot, almost all the ballots, if not all, are mailed in Washington. As long as that ballot's postmarked by election day, it counts. Now, I'm not going to editorialize on their system. That it is what it is. And no one's insinuating any malfeasance. But the way they do it, Democrats and Republicans, they all run on the same thing. The top two vote getters advance. So Congresswoman Herrera, she had voted to impeach Trump. She had the early lead. Now Joe Kent's up by 837 votes. And Cook Political Report came out and said they've seen enough evidence he's going to be a winner.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to see that. Anybody who could take out Jamie Herrera Butler, that was a good thing for the Republican Party, certainly. But it didn't look good for a while. And I was concerned because you had several viable candidates in the race with her, but as you pointed out, the way the elections work and everything, I was worried that was going to split the conservative base out there, or frankly, just the anti-Jamie base out there.
Yeah.
But I think that's good news. I mean, she was going to be really, really problematic in it, and if it is Joe Kent, he goes on to win. At least we've got a clean slate there, and we can hope for the best.
Well, the nice thing about it is, and there were other good conservatives in that race, but the fact is, if you total all the vote of the Republicans versus what the Democrat got, it's about 60% Republican, 40% Democrat. This seat, I believe, if Kent ends up holding on, which it looks like he will, I think he wins comfortably in the November election. The district is a center-right district, to the right of center. And I think Joe Kent, who's an America First conservative, I think he's going to win. He's certainly got President Trump's endorsement. The guy raised $2.25 million for the race, so he is able to raise funds. And the more Republicans we can get, the better. I was hesitant to talk about this, but I am going to pick your brain a little bit on this. Drew, there's been some internal polling, and I can't represent to our viewers how accurate this is, but supposedly Republican Party is going to be targeting some districts where Joe Biden was plus 10 to plus 14. I mean, if that internal polling is correct, I personally have said I think we may win anywhere from 10 to 25 seats. If those polling numbers are accurate and they are targeting seats held by Democrats in Congress where Joe Biden won the district by 11, 14, 15 points, Drew, you could be looking at a severe blowout come this fall.
Yeah, we can hope for that for sure.
Right.
You're always having to balance, the nonsense from the media. Obviously they want to downplay the bloodbath as much as they can that's coming. The Democrats do know they're going to be defeated in November. That is why they passed this Inflation Reduction Act. To do as much damage to the economy as they could on the way out. And of course, they'll blame Republicans for it once Republicans take over power. And all you're going to hear, by the way, for the following 2 years is that the Republicans are obstructing Biden's agenda. If they would just pass the legislation that the Democrats wanted to pass, the recession would be over, inflation would be solved. That's where this is going to go. So put that at, just prepare yourselves for it. It's going to be maddening, But yeah, I mean, look, based on what we've talked about with this raid, with the Inflation Reduction Act, which is just an absolute punch in the gut to the American people, it wouldn't surprise me. And I pray for that, because To the point, the only way to save this country after witnessing what just took place at Mar-a-Lago is to eliminate, destroy the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
As long as they have any modicum of power in this country, we are not safe.
No, we're not. And the way to do it is at the ballot box. I mean, we can put the rhetoric aside, but if Republicans come out and vote, and right now the enthusiasm gap is on the Republican side, I got to believe after what happened yesterday, it's going to ratchet up a notch too. I just got to believe that's going to happen. I don't know what the margin's going to be in the House. I know with redistricting, there's some favorability. There's the typical midterm piece where the party out of power picks up an average, I don't know, what is it, 22, 23 seats, somewhere around there. Again, so much can happen over the next 90 days, but with events like happened yesterday, coupled, this is a bill that's going to enhance inflation, not take it down. I don't know. I just see a lot of issues, and a lot of people, Drew, are thinking, well, maybe inflation's going to come down, when we get the report this week. Okay, it may come down into the 8s or maybe even the 7s because oil was down 50 straight days. But core CPI is not going to probably let up. If you're still sitting at core CPI somewhere in that 5 to 6% range, that's unsustainable. That's going to mean wages have to go up and they can't keep up. Rents are going to continue going up. Food prices will continue going up. Yeah, you may get some temporary relief at the pump, but guess what? If China's economy starts to reignite and they get rid of these stupid COVID policies that they're doing, then demand for oil for China will increase. Well, if that happens, you're going to see oil back above $100 a barrel. Oil stocks are rallying on Wall Street today. It's not going to surprise me if we've seen a dip. You could see a worst case scenario for Democrats where oil prices start to go back up again right around election time. I don't know. We'll see. But Drew, in another one tonight, Leora Levy, she is an America First candidate running for Senate in Connecticut. President Trump, she was on our show last Thursday. President Trump endorsed her 4 or 5 hours after the show. What do you think? Does she have a shot at winning tonight?
Yeah, I think she's got a shot. I mean, honestly, this reminds me a little bit of the Dr. Oz situation personally. Whatever, we need Republicans for sure, but yeah, we could see her win for sure. Connecticut's an unusual state, peculiar state. I hope so. I'm not. Look, I mean, I can't help but express my opinion. I'm not a huge Leora Levy fan. It's like the best worst option we have out there, I guess. This is somebody who's flipped on abortion and so on and so forth. It's kind of like, that's why I say she's like Dr. Oz. How conservative is she really? Whatever. She's running on the American First agenda. Let's hope she sticks to it. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's certainly better than a Democrat at this point. But we do need her to win.
Yeah, I tell you, I hear some of the criticism. I mean, she was on our show last Thursday. I thought she did really well. Whatever her positions were before, I know where they are right now. Trump would not have endorsed her had he thought he was getting someone that he didn't trust. Look, here's the fact about Connecticut. And, people assume, oh, it's Blumenthal. Why are we wasting our time? No, I'm going to tell you something. Blumenthal's approval rating is in the mid-40s. Now, you might think, well, Mark, there's no way we're going to get a red senator out of Connecticut. Not so fast. I mean, as the great Lee Corso says, if we have a wave election, Drew, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't want to get people too excited. But look, if she can pull it out in Connecticut tonight, I think she's a better candidate, will distinguish herself from the other 2 Republicans running in that race tonight. And like anything else, when you get down into the fall, if these inflation numbers are still high, and the Biden administration's continue to persecute Republicans, you never know. Things could just break, and if Blumenthal's approval rating is below 50, you could see a huge upset. So we wish her really well, and we hope she can win tonight. All right, closing comment. You got a minute left, Drew. Close it out for us. In light of the Trump thing now, where do we go from here over the next few weeks? What's going to happen next?
Well, we're going to continue to see the media blow up this story more and more. We're going to see them try to paint a picture of Trump as being guilty and what I fear they're going to do is they're going to try and say that, oh, well, they found some torn up documents or something like that. And those documents, of course, were related to January 6th. So obviously he's trying to hide something. But But, hopefully the American people aren't fooled. I think it's clear right now that the Democratic Party's never changed. We're all just living on the Democratic Party plantation. They view us, the American people, the same way the plantation owners viewed slaves. We are just able-bodied, hardworking American citizens who exist to toil and slave away so that they can steal the fruits of our labor. I think that's what they've painted a clear picture of.
Well, I would agree with you on that, Drew, and I think this is going to be the beginning of a swell of resentment. I mean, it's not just going to be Republicans, folks. There's a lot of independent voters that do not like seeing a former president. You may have disagreed with his personality, but a lot of Americans liked his policies. And people just don't like to see someone's house raided on something as arcane as the Presidential Records Act of 1978. Okay, that's my commentary for today. Drew, thanks for joining me again today. Every couple of weeks when you come on, big stories break every time. I mean, it's like amazing. But again, I always love the commentary. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Mark. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, folks, that's it for today. We're going to be cutting through the propaganda. Tomorrow, from Connecticut, we're going to have Joe Visconti as my guest. Joe's going to analyze the election results in Connecticut and across the country. So join us tomorrow, same bat time, same bat station. Go Leona. Hopefully we have some good results in Connecticut tonight. Thanks again, Drew. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.